Yay!
Oh, hi.
Hi! Oh gosh, I wish we were in person. My goodness.
Oh my God, I know.
Ah,
But these are the times that we are in. So,
we adjust and we make it work. Let me give us a little intro, even though I just want to dive in. I want to dive in. I see all that color behind you and everything. Okay. Hello, CFDA. I am Tracee Ellis Ross, and I am here with the Christopher John Rogers, one of the CFDA's Emerging Designers of the Year nominees. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So let's start with how are you?
I'm okay. All things considered. I am feeling really lucky and blessed. Like, my family is all okay. I'm okay. I just got back into the studio with my team about like 2 months ago.
Wow,
And
okay.
yeah, so we're working on the new collection and like I'm able to do my thing. So I feel really good. How are you? How's everything?
I'm hanging in here. Like for all of us, it's an adjustment. My family is safe. Everybody is healthy. My loved ones are, some have made it through COVID easily, but mostly I feel very aware of everything going on in our world and
Right.
sort of anxious to be of service wherever I can be. We are just back in production. So, as
Right.
strange as it is, I feel really grateful to be able to get back into doing what I love. And also, I know Hollywood, it's so interesting. People think it's, this glamorous Hollywood town, but it's an industry filled with a lot of people in all different kinds of trades. And so I'm happy that people get to get back to work. And I think it's great. I'm sure that it's interesting for you guys getting back to work, but I see gorgeous color behind you. Oh my goodness. I feel like we should start by. I mean, have we actually met in person?
I
We've
don't
never.
think we've
I
never
don't
met in
think we've
person.
met. I feel like I know you because
I
we've been in
know.
this exchange, and
Yeah.
because you know my best friend Samira. So you guys had
Yeah.
conversations. Yeah, and Kirby, and all my close people. But I guess we should start by telling everybody. I will say how I became introduced to you was through Instagram,
Yeah.
which is, I think one of the ways in this day and age that we get to find each other, and I love it so much. And I was first struck by your use of color and proportion. I just really, I'm a lover of clothes from ever, and more than clothes, style and sort of how we use clothing as a way to kind of express our insides on the outside, and as a creative expression, and also sometimes as an armor. And I was just so struck by the boldness of your designs, and I don't mean that as like, oh, it's so courageous. Just like there's a clarity to your designs that, like, from the beginning, from what I've seen of you, like there was a clear thread of like, this is your work.
Thank you.
And I think that's really, that's not an easy thing to do, with any form of art.
Yeah.
And so I thought we could start with the first question. I mean, we will talk about where I've worn your things, but
Right.
with the first question of how did you become a designer? Like, was that always what you wanted to do? Where did this love come from? And just tell me a little bit about your background and sort of
Right.
who you are.
The whole shebang. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And from a really young age, I've always been really creative. I've always been drawn to anything artistic, anything that allowed me to express myself non-verbally. I've always been
Yeah.
into that. And I was lucky enough to have a grandmother who was incredibly perceptive and brought to my parents' attention, actually, that I was like drawing on the walls and like doing all this stuff. And she was like, you probably should get him tested for like some kind of art class. So I actually started taking art classes in elementary school. And so I was introduced to like Van Gogh and Impressionist artists really early on. And so my first introduction to formalized art was color, and the idea of emotion through color, an idea of like it just really being emotional. And so anything from, you know, traditional paint art, like paintings, to film, anime and manga, comic books, people being incredibly expressive with the way that they are dressed in comic books, and how clothing can imbue this new power or unfound ability in the wearer through fashion and through clothes, was my initial starting point to being interested in the idea of fashion as a thing or a concept. I've always known that I was a queer person, and growing up Black in the South, being queer wasn't necessarily something that I felt the most comfortable expressing outwardly. And so I'd always watch the way that I moved. I would always watch the tone of my voice. And one thing that I could do to express myself while still not necessarily having to come out in a way was express myself through fashion. And so allowing my queerness, my interest in all of these different things, manifest itself through my personal style was how I identified with fashion. So I love making clothes that obviously have a lot of emotion and a lot of intention behind them and a lot of thought. But I really enjoy creating separates and creating looks out of separates so that people can buy a full look, feel their fantasy, but then also take those things apart and wear them, you know, wear like this great, amazing puff pink skirt with a matching top, but also with a white t-shirt. Or with a denim jacket, or with a Birkenstock, I don't know, whatever the person decides. So for me, clothing is about self-expression. That's what I've always been about. Not necessarily needing for myself to be seen in the clothes, but for people to see themselves in the things that I want to make. So that's...
Can you, I'm so, first of all, thank you for sharing that. And I had so many questions, but I didn't want to cut you off. Would you, if we go back into the beginning, are there particular pieces of art or moments that you think of, or a film or a comic book, like something specific that is like a touch point for you when something crystallized? I'm always so curious what like movies or books or whatever it is that sort of started the inspiration.
I think in terms of fashion, it wasn't really one moment. One incident that happened was that I was actually drawing a comic book with one of my really good friends, Catherine, in 4th grade. And she pointed out that all of the characters wore the same thing. And I was like, well, I mean, like Superman isn't changing his outfit every comic. But that's when I started investigating the fact that designing this thing was something that I could do. And so then I started looking up fashion designers on YouTube, and I saw this John Galliano show, I think that he did, maybe it was his graduate thesis, and I saw it on YouTube. And so that really kind of sparked my need to explore fashion as a creative outlet and hopefully a career. And I always knew that I had my own point of view on things, and I never wanted to work for anyone else. So really forging a path for myself to be able to allow myself to self-express was what I always wanted from a really young age.
I love that. How old are you in 4th grade?
11, 12, 11?
I think 11, 12. That's what I was just thinking. I was like, wow, that's really, I mean, I think back to 11, 12, and I don't know that I had that kind of clarity of purpose. And yet on the other hand, I look back and I'm like, oh, I of course became the person that I am today. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like, duh.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, yeah. But like at that point, or like in the process, I don't know that I knew that this is where I was going. Right. But like, even like if I etched together like my favorite TV shows, I'm like, duh, of course I became this woman. Like, exactly. You know what I mean? Like Wonder Woman, Bionic Woman, Charlie's Angels, Carol Burnett, Lucille Ball. I'm like, yeah, you know?
And yet all of these separate, disparate things can exist as inspiration for one person, and
absolutely
singular, and you can be yourself. And I think that that's the most inspiring thing.
Okay, let's just be basic. Like, where were you when you found out that you were nominated for a CFDA award?
I was in my studio with my team,
Uh-huh.
and I was just like going through my emails, and then
Uh-huh.
I saw that email, and I was gagging. I was screaming. Um,
What was the
that's
first thing you did?
I was like, oh my God. And normally I'm not like a freak out type of person, but I was like very excited.
Can
And
you name why? Like, what is it about CFDA, or in your career, what this means for you, or what it would offer? Even just the nomination, does it open a different door? Does it change your own perspective? Does it allow you different kind of funding? Like,
yeah,
what is the magnitude of it that it makes you excited, other than just that you're nominated, which it could just be that too, by the way. Like, that can be enough. But is there something on it?
I mean, I guess when I think back to last January, I had a full-time job and I couldn't afford to have my own brand. And through all of the things that the universe has had happen to me, it's allowed me, with the help of my really good friends, it's allowed me to manifest this reality. And so it's just weird to me. Not weird, but it strikes me as incredible that I'm nominated for one of the biggest fashion awards in the world, when last summer I was like scrapping coins to like pay rent. So, and then like for other people who look like me or who can identify with my experience, for them to see that I'm one of many ways to exist in this industry successfully, I think also I have on my mind as well. So
Yeah, I identify with that. It's very interesting. Like, in my nomination, the first time I was nominated for the Emmy, and it had been 35 years or something like that since a Black woman had been nominated in that category. And I don't bring that up from an ego standpoint. I bring it up from the standpoint that I think, as a Black person and a Black woman in this country, I am always aware of the reverberation beyond just myself, sort of what it means in terms of representation. We're raised with that, but then we also hold it with the reverence that it holds,
yeah,
and how we are interconnected.
yeah,
My win is your win, that your win is my win, and every success that you have is permission and inspiration for me to have my own success and my own version of that, particularly when you do it the way you're doing it, of being yourself, where you're not hiding who you are, but you're being who you are, and that is the unique gift that you actually have to share through your work. So I hear you on that, and I see you, I see you, I see
yeah.
you, see you. All right. You said how you got started. Is there a particular person that you designed for? And what is your brand ethos? Like, do you have a mission statement of sorts, or specifically? And how does that play into who specifically you design for? Or do you design from a space of vision and creativity? Or is it both and a swirl of all of them?
I think it's both.
Hmm.
Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but when I first started designing, it was just very instinctual. And it was like, I want to see this color in this proportion in space. So I'm going to design this thing.
Hmm.
Or I'm really inspired by this textile or the way that this fabric shifts. And so I'm going to use this and come up with something that is suitable to this fabric. But then there are also individuals like yourself who, through many years of presenting yourself or themselves in a public space, have allowed for many iterations of themselves, I think is really interesting. So I'm really inspired by and have found my work to be for people who are incredibly self-assured, people who are incredibly intelligent, people who understand that you can wear, bright neon yellow and still be one of the smartest, most intelligent, funniest people in the room. That you don't necessarily need to wear all black to be taken seriously, that you can be minimalist one day, but then maximalist the next and still be the same person. The work holds space for people who flux and move through identity and self-expression, and really love clothes. It's not necessarily a brand for people who just want like a nice black pant, which is, we all need that, right? Where you're coming to us, or you're maybe not even coming to us, but you see us on a rack and you're like, I need this thing because it's me. And so that's the work that we do. And those are the people who gravitate towards it. And I feel so blessed because, again, like when you speak to the clarity of vision, I think like I'm really blessed to have that, and to have found people who identify with it. So it's not hard for me. And like, I'm lucky that the funness that comes with what I do, people identify with it. I'm not having to like make a navy trouser necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as we walk through this new space of racial reckoning in this country, right. I feel a deeper understanding of why Black joy is revolutionary. And I see that all through your creations. You know, there is a sense of joy in expression, you know, as opposed to fear or sort of trying to tell a story that keeps you safe. And I think that is a part of the revolution that we're in terms of our creativity, not only sort of how we show up, but the way we allow ourselves to be free.
Yes.
Even within the constraints of, you know, the oppression that exists still.
Right.
I know that for me, it's so interesting. I'll share 2 stories about your pieces and me wearing them. So I don't know what the name of it was, but the hot pink sort of bubble top with the midriff out, and then I saw it, and I swear to goodness, I thought it was something that came out of my dream.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I've worn that before. I don't know where, I don't know when, but I've worn it before and I need to wear it again. And it was, you know, with it carried a sense of buoyancy and just sort of like, I'm here. This is me. And it's interesting because I always say, like, I wear my clothes, they don't wear me. Right. And I've said that forever in my life. But there are certain pieces of clothing that sort of, they leave you with an energy. They leave you with, they offer you, like, they kind of invite you to a different place. And I feel like that even there was not strings, but, you know, things that sort of.
Little streamers.
Yeah, the streamers that came out of the back. Like, I was a gift. Yes. I was a gift. Yes. You know, and I think in the world that we live in, like, we don't always get to imagine ourselves as gifts, let alone walk around as them.
Exactly.
And so I thought I would share that with you. And then, I mean, I've worn your clothing more than just these 2 times, but these 2 kind of stand out for me because I've worn your clothing in shoots, in photo shoots, but for NAACP Awards.
Yeah.
It was really interesting because I was choosing between 2 dresses. That collection was sublime. Okay. From top to bottom, just oh my Lord, you know, and I felt like I saw the, it was like, I saw the history of so many pieces of us. I saw the reclaiming of certain hairstyles and like the sort of that Victorian dress that we never see Black women in, the regality of that, the Victorian sort of stateliness of those times. And I just saw like bustles and all these different kinds of things, but translated through this very specific and current and modern way, and just dripping in color.
Yes. And
between the hair, like, it was so sublime. And so that dress, when it came down to it, like, I was sort of choosing between 2 things, strangely enough. I knew I wanted to wear you to NAACP. And this is I've never shared this story with anyone, but it was very interesting to me because the decision I made was because and this is crazy with what the dress was, but that I had nothing to prove. I didn't have to try and pretend I was young or pretend I was something. I could just own where I've gotten to in my life, who I am, my Blackness, my joy, my regality, the fact that it was out of that delicious velvet, you know, it was sort of otherworldly with those shoulders. And so your clothing, it's such a,
Right.
doesn't even do it just, your clothing, your art, becomes wearable in a way that it takes on the persona of the person in the moment, but also imbues that person with the legacy that we come from.
Yeah.
And so that's not a question. That was just.
I love to hear that, because that's ultimately what I want. And I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that the clothing is like, it's a lot. It's not a little. And so it takes a specific type of person to identify with the work, but then to try it on, and then 3, to like feel enough in it, and to be like, I don't need to be someone else. Like, I can exist in this. Like, I don't need to change who I am or prove anything. And so I really love to hear that.
Yeah, really exciting. What inspires you?
Oh, everything.
Give me some top 5.
Oh, okay. Top 5. I'll say abstract impressionist artworks, mid-century interior design, comic books, made-up imaginary characters, debris and trash bags, and mid-century Parisian couture. Those are my top 5 things that I always reference and that continually show up in my brain.
Oh my God, it's such a good list. That was such a good list. That was such a good list.
Well, a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And you know, I just had this like vision of my mom saying like, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
That's it. That is,
yeah, you know, like,
oh, sorry.
No, please.
For me, and I don't ever say those things to be funny, but there's no hierarchy to the inspiration. Like, Big Bird is just as inspirational as 1985 La Croix to me. And so the space in between those things, like where those vibrate, is where I draw the inspiration. So yeah.
Yeah, you know what it also made me think of as you were saying that is, as Black people, particularly in this country, and the legacy of slavery, and we have been able to find magic in spaces where it otherwise wouldn't be even seen.
Right.
To spin love into very tight and wrong spaces. And so as you are in the industry of fashion, are there places and ways that you want the industry to move, that you can name?
Yeah, I think, I mean, speaking of hierarchies, I think that the demolition or expansion of categories, I think, is paramount to the evolution of this industry. I don't necessarily need for there to be a women's schedule and a men's schedule and a resort collection, and it's like, just make your stuff and like release it whenever you want, and whoever wants to wear it can wear it. I also don't necessarily need to I want to see more people being celebrated for the work that they do without there having to be something like, I want other people to be able to be nominated for Emerging Designer of the Year without having to like be selling in a certain store, or having someone, like, I don't want there to be prerequisites for the acknowledgement of talent. And so I think that that is really important as well. And just like a loosening up of everything. It's just like, if something is good, let it be good. Like, tell the person that they're talented and like work with them, and
Yeah, and also sometimes I feel like it's like name the part of it that's good. And then if there's more to learn or to, and then you sort of pull those parts forward, but go like, this thing that you do is magic. Let's not try and fit you into the box that existed before, but how do we support you in gaining the skills so that you can sell your things if that's what you want to do, or that the world can have access to them if that's what you want, or whatever those things are. I think a lot of that, the fact that we're having those conversations, the fact that it is that there is an opening for those questions to be asked, I hope means that we are on the path to those kinds of changes. I mean, I'm 47, and I have to tell you that the evolution of gender and that conversation is the most liberating, I'm just like, oh my God. And it's interesting because, there was an exploration for me of like, I mean, I don't know. Did I just like assume I was supposed to be?
Yeah. Right.
But in essence, as I looked back, had I known that there were not these rigid lines, I would have dreamed differently.
Mm. Yes.
And so same thing with, an industry of any kind. If you start to remove these arbitrary lines that were put there in response to a system of patriarchy, capitalism, racism, like all these different kinds of things, how will we start to dream and create? And what will that look like? And so I love that you said that. That's what it conjured for me. It reminded me that there are ways that we are learning from each other right now that is so important, because it allows so much, even the organizers right now, I keep hearing like reimagine. And that is in our hands collectively. And so it's wonderful to talk to you, a designer an artist in this world, to know how you kind of think about it in the business aspect of it. I'm going to ask you 2 more questions.
Okay. She's ready.
Ready. Let's see. Okay. What do you consider is there a defining moment in your career that you were like, okay, I might be able to do this now?
Yeah. I mean, when we won the CFDA Book Fashion Fund, then I was like, okay, because for me, it was less of a clout thing or I need this title thing. It was more of like, I need these coins, because because that was when I actually didn't have a job. And to be quite honest, if my team and I wouldn't have won that prize, I don't know where I would be. Like, the collection that you see behind me wouldn't exist. Me speaking to you right now probably wouldn't be happening. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really when it clicked in my head that like, okay, like I can do this. And I feel like times are changing. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. And so what is next? What's next?
Lots of things.
Tell me some of them.
We're like expanding our product offering. If I'm getting businessy. So right now, a lot of the things that we do are quite evening, but for the next season, we're expanding into more day wear. We're introducing knits, which will be really fun.
Oh, fun.
Expanding sizes. We have a few collaborations in the works that are going to be really, really fun. And yeah, just continuing to exist and making cool stuff.
In and of itself is a really good thing.
Yes, that is very true.
Well, it's such a treat to talk to you, to see your face. Yeah, I look forward to the moment that I can give you a real hug and say a proper hey. But hopefully between now and then, I'll end up wearing something of yours from this room, this blue
I hope.
room.
I hope.
I mean, for God's sakes, I don't think I'm going anywhere. Well, I just want to say to everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure that you check out who the winners are, see who the winners are going to be. They're announced on September 14th. And I am so grateful to have been in this wonderful conversation with Christopher John Rogers. And thank you, CFDA.
Thank you.